The Boys Season 5 has officially wrapped production, which means that there is no more Homelander and no more Billy Butcher and everyone else when the season premieres and ends. The story is finished, but now that the show is ending, what will that mean for the future of this universe? It's been extremely lucrative for Amazon, so I don't think that they will let it go so easily. We'll talk about all that and more in today's video. Like we said, The Boys Season 5 has officially wrapped filming, which means that the series is now fully in post-production. Editing, sound design, visual effects, that's what's being worked on right now as Amazon gears up for the final season's release sometime next year. And really, this feels like the right time to bring the main story to a close. From the beginning, Eric Kripke made it clear that this show wasn't going to run forever. 5 seasons always felt like a solid structure, enough time to build out the world, explore its major characters, and bring things to a proper conclusion without dragging it out. Although, we'll be honest, the show did have some fans online complaining about Season 4 and a bit of Season 3 dragging it out a bit. We're talking the whole series when they have Homelander on the ropes just for him to escape at the last minute and then everything getting reset got a little bit old for some viewers. But even though The Boys is ending, the larger franchise itself isn't. There are still several spin-offs in development, with Gen V already launched with a successful first season and has a second season on the way, but this show always felt like a companion series to The Boys. Their stories were so intertwined with characters jumping between shows and plot devices being swapped between them, so when The Boys ends, I don't know what Gen V will do. Vought Rising is another project in the pipeline, aiming to focus on Soldier Boy and Stormfront during the early days of Vought. There's nothing else there other than exploring the two characters, inevitably setting up their place during the proper Boys timeline. And then there's The Boys Mexico. It's still currently in development with Diego Luna and Gael Garcia Bernal attached, but there has been some radio silence on that front, so I'm not too sure where that's at right now. I know that Diego Luna is still riding high post Andor, but maybe the spin-off show will pick up in the aftermath of what happens in Season 5. Only time will tell. And then finally, there's The Boys Diabolical, which was an animated anthology show that maybe had 2 canon episodes to the main series, and we haven't really heard word for a second season. So while the main storyline might be wrapping up, the universe is expanding now. Whether these spin-off shows can capture the same magic the main series did, well, that's a fair question. Will people stay interested once the main series is over? A big part of what made The Boys work was its core group of characters. The dynamic between Butcher, Huey, and Homelander and the rest of the 7 and the Boys created tension, and a lot of the show's emotional weight. With these characters and stories ending, there's no guarantee that the spin-offs will hit in the same way. The tone, the writing, and the performances will all need to carry the same level of intensity if Amazon wants to keep the audience invested, and trust me, they do. Anthony Starr as Homelander and Carl Urban's Billy Butcher are both characters that just hit the public zeitgeist at the right time and in the right way, and they're leaving some pretty big shoes to fill for whatever show decides to take up that mantle, whether it's Vought Rising or Boys Mexico. That said, the world of The Boys has proven flexible. Gen V took the same universe and told a completely different kind of story. Still dark, violent, and, cruel, but filtered through a younger cast and more satirical take on college culture. If the spin-offs can keep that spirit while doing something new, they have a real chance of working. And stepping back for a second, the original show's cultural impact can't really be ignored. When it first premiered in 2019, The Boys offered a very different take on the superhero genre. One that was more cynical, a little bit more grounded in real-world power structures, and much more willing to push boundaries. It arrived at a time that superhero movies have arguably reached their peak in the public zeitgeist with Endgame. Everyone wanted to imitate the Marvel formula for safe PG-13 comic book fare, and who could blame them? Seeing Marvel constantly hitting billion-dollar movies during that time, it was inevitable. The Boys came over and flipped it on its head. No one really expected it to land the way that it did. It didn't just stand out, it helped redefine what people thought was possible in superhero television. After it hit, shows like Invincible and Peacemaker gained momentum, proving that there was an appetite for darker, more complex, and more gory adult-oriented content in this space. And while the DCU and MCU haven't fully shifted in that same direction, the influence is still definitely there. With Marvel taking steps to introduce more adult-oriented shows and movies in its lineup, with some restrictions of course, with Deadpool famously saying that Marvel won't let them do drugs on screen, and the DCU pretty much having absolutely no problem embracing adult stuff for their select properties. Neither will ever touch the same level of depravity or shock that The Boys demanded though. with the rampant drug use and the superhero orgies and just gore for gore's sake. So with season 5 heading into post-production, we're at a turning point. It's basically the end of an era. The original show is ending and a newest chapter is beginning with these spin-offs. I wouldn't want to call them phases or chapters because The Boys is an interconnected universe, but it seems set on keeping it on TV for now, which I commend it for. I cannot imagine the conversations that Amazon TV executives probably were asking Eric Kripke to adapt The Boys universe into a movie. What would they even do with that they haven't already done? And to be honest, that movie would get an NC-17 rating. Let's be entirely real here. If they made the jump to the big screen, they would have to do some pretty heinous stuff, and really, I think they're fine with the format that they have now. Anyways, while some fans might check out the spin-offs after this, not everyone is going to be on board for a show without Homelander or Butcher, but others may still stick around. I'm pretty curious to see where the universe goes from here. Either way, it's clear that The Boys has left a mark. It proved that superhero stories can still surprise people, especially when they're not afraid to get messy, weird, or uncomfortable. And whether or not the spin-offs live to the main series, the original run has already earned its place in the conversation. So yeah, this is the end of The Boys, but not the end of The Boys universe. The next couple of years are gonna be interesting, as we see how these shows are received and what direction the franchise takes without its original core. But that's all I have to say on that for today, but before I go, I wanted to answer a mailbag question. If you want to see your question answered in a future video, be sure to leave a comment down below with #mailbag. This question comes to us from @WilliamCager3137. #mailbag. Could you guys discuss The Walking Dead on the channel? Thank you for your question, William. So, if I have your question right, I'm assuming that you either want us to discuss the original series that aired on AMC and the comic book that paired with it, or you want us to discuss The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon. So, if the topic comes up, we may do a video on it. I'm not saying we will never cover it, but usually for long-standing videos, or if we cover a franchise closely, myself and Zach, the other guy on this channel, usually don't follow a series or a film unless we have a pretty big interest in the property. As you can see, we cover Marvel and DC primarily on this channel because, well, we both like it and it's pretty popular. I handle stuff like The Boys and Invincible because I'm pretty knowledgeable in both the comic and the adaptations of it. We also look out for new stuff to cover all the time, but we usually don't do it unless we're fairly knowledgeable in the material so that we can cover it pretty well. Sometimes we'll experiment like that one-off Cowboy Bebop video that I did a week ago. So to answer your question, William, if there's something interesting to talk about there, we may cover it. But for The Walking Dead, I really haven't peeked into the series enough to cover it correctly, but I won't say never. But anyways, that's all I have for today's video. Happy 4th of July to anyone who celebrates it. Please be careful with the fireworks, and keep it here on Professor X for all your Marvel, DC, and other content. And we'll see you guys next time.